Does anyone else think the Scarlet Witch is pretty much dressed like a cocktail waitress from the 60s? Hi, I'm Mark, and this is Subliteral Network. I make art and comics, and thanks for watching. Remember to hit like and subscribe and to leave your feedback in the comments. I post art daily, 5 days a week on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and this is a roundup of that work in case you missed it, with a little more detailed description added. You can read my Una the Cave Bunny comics free at radiocomics.com, and please visit my Patreon page if you'd like to support my work. All these links are in my description and bio, and please watch till the end so you don't miss anything. And please watch for my one-shot comic called Searchers, coming September 18th at burningstarcomics.net. Now this is another panel from that comic. I covered it a little bit before. I showed some panels and excerpts from it on other videos. It's from another one of those grown-up comics that I worked on some while back, and it was these gigantic women who happened to be working on this farm. It was just so much fun to draw women of this gigantic size that there's just a lot of grace and curved lines that go into it. I love drawing these women, and I just think they look fantastic. And like I said, I'm considering doing a separate video on that topic alone. My pencil drawing for my Hillbilly Sue character, who started showing up in my sketchbooks a while ago, but then I just sort of refined her design and kind of ended up here. And I couldn't really figure out whether she was going to be using like shotguns and earth weapons or like these bizarre electronic blasters and stuff from the future. I'm still working on that. I'd like to remember that it was Al Cap and his classic comic strip Lil Abner who created just sort of this whole thing about sexy hillbilly girls. I mean, he was a master at this, and I think that it's become a part of folklore. There's no getting around that, and I'm not going to deny it. So that's Hillbilly Sue's kind of roots, and that's the way I'm going with it. So far, I've only done like one little mini comic with Hillbilly Sue, but I realize I've been kind of neglecting her, and she's got to make a comeback someday. Now, from my Una the Cave Bunny comics, this is Arna, the pterodactyl writer, in a panel of her committing a raid against Una's village. I meant the pterodactyl writers to be kind of a one-shot story, but just the idea of cave bunnies riding pterodactyls is so cool that I'm going to incorporate it into the regular comic, or at least kind of make them appear semi-regularly. So when I designed all this, I decided to make these particular cave bunnies, the ones that ride pterodactyls, are small, kind of short people. So I figured that they'd be light enough that a hollow bone pterodactyl could support them. Now that's the kind of working theory I'm going on. So I love that triangular shape with a lot of wing surface on a pterosaur that's really not so big. I think it's nice. It allows you to see the character in size and detail, and let you fit a giant flying lizard in panels and pages, because that's sort of practically what you have to do. So this was painted up. I did that entire chapter I painted it up in Sketchbook Pro on my tablet. It's just like a cheap little tablet in a free program, but I thought it was really versatile, and you could do so much with Sketchbook Pro. So I was able to get like watercolor style effects and opaque painting style effects, and I loved working on it, except it was really just a sketching app, and didn't produce files of a sufficient size. I mean, it was 72 dpi, which is really janky, and I was able to stick it in Photoshop. The most I could put it up to was 300 dots per inch, and that was good enough for a webcam, but it's nowhere good enough for print, and I was kind of aiming for that eventually. So these comics are really a product for the web almost exclusively. Now this is Dr. Minkenstein and her cat girlfriend raising a monster in Dr. Minkenstein's mad scientist lab. And I had forgotten who she was. I had the drawing, and I was reminded online of her name. And this was published, I'm pretty sure it was at Moo Press, and it was a magazine called Wild, which is an I guess you could call it a grown-up comic magazine. But for this pinup, I did a lot more detailed work and put a lot more into it because, you know, a pinup is kind of special and it's not a story page, it's more like an illustration. So I chose to put a lot more work into it than I would to a regular comic book page. Although, one day I'm going to go over what is, well, you might call it the idea of the appropriate amount of detail. I think it all comes down to storytelling. You can put as much detail in as you want, but if your storytelling isn't clear and crisp, it doesn't matter. But I think probably my baseline is your page shouldn't look like too spare or empty. That there needs to be a certain amount of convincing rendering and detail so that you kind of half believe what's going on. You suspend disbelief because you see a background or you see a texture that convinces you that something is more or less real, or convinces you enough so that you're believing it as you go through the story. Now, these are always fun to do. I had gotten I'd been drawing with Sharpies for a while, but then later on I got one of those color Sharpie marker sets, and I started doing these little sketch card size things. So you can see they're pretty small. They're like 2.5 by 3.5 inches. But this one is of the Scarlet Witch. Now, when Jack Kirby was drawing the Scarlet Witch years ago, she started out in this kind of really bizarre sort of costume. It looked like maybe a circus performer, or like the girl who rides the elephants out there, or a cocktail waitress maybe. And I'm thinking, when Kirby was designing, you know, his women back then, I suppose, I'm just guessing, but it looked like he was, when he would see like a cigarette girl, as they used to have back in a club or a bar back in the old days, they would be dressed like the Scarlet Witch. You know, you kind of look at the vintage pictures, and then you see how Jack was designing the Scarlet Witch. I just see a sort of similarity, and it's something that wouldn't happen today because like cigarette girls are long gone. But I think Jack Kirby was there drinking and smoking cigars and saying, you know what, I'm going to put that in my comic book. I'd like to thank you, my subscribers, and especially my new subscribers. I'm very happy you enjoy hearing something more about the work that I'm doing, and I hope the videos are entertaining, and I really hope you can come back for more.